Design WordPress custom theme. First thing you want to do is get your measurements. You know you're going to create a screen that's 960, one that's 777, and one 480. So let's find out what our calculations will be. Go to quick links on Musu, do 12 column size. First of all, do your 960. We will see that when our site is 960 pixels wide, each guide in Photoshop will be 80 pixels apart, and let's create a guide 6, 480 high. So let's go to Photoshop, let's create new, file, new, 960, here, this is where we make the changes, 960 pixels, make sure it's pixels and not inches. Height will be what we determined, 480. Okay, so we hit OK. Here is our 960 by 480. Now we want to do the guides so that we will be able to cut the graphic up in the necessary columns. So we double click the ruler, we go to guides, grids, and slices. Make sure that there's a guideline every 80 pixels. Make sure the subdivisions are 1, make sure it's pixels, hit OK. Now we don't see the guide because we have to hold our command and hit quotation marks, and when we do, we see that we have a wonderfully measured out interface file, so we can begin. First thing we want to do is create a header. So let's create a new layer for that. We'll label it like a good designer does, and we will draw our header area. Let's see, we'll fill it in with some kind of color from our frog that we're eventually going to use. It doesn't matter at this point. We're going to create a quick website just so you can see how it's going. So let us fill it with our foreground color, which is Option Delete, and then we'll create another one for the footer. We call it footer. Layer properties, footer. Now, although our footer is going to be one whole row across, we don't necessarily need to fill it with the color. Option Delete. Then let's do a sidebar. Sidebar, or whatever you want to call it. Let's create that. Let's make it 3 columns wide. Let's grab another color from our frog. And there. So what we see is we have a header that has 2 grids high, or 2 grids high, a footer that's 1 grid high, and a sidebar that's 3 grids high. Now, just to save time, I'm just going to move over some graphics that I previously made just to save time. See how wonderfully this is saving time. Get the other one here. Put that in place. We want a swamp kind of thing going here. Let's get our frog over. And I'm always using that grid system for a well-balanced site. Let's make the frog. Okay. We're gonna make a little. Let's remove any part of the frog that we don't need. Okay, so let's say this is our website. Next thing we want to do, now that it's 960, we have the header, the footer in place, the sidebar. Let's click the top layer and combine all of them by hitting Command, Option, Shift, E, and that'll put all the layers on one section. And so now that we have this, we can start cutting the graphic up into pieces. We'll copy this, open a new window, enter, and paste, and we'll call this one, I did that wrong, we have to save it for web and devices, and we will call this 960 header. 960 header. I'm going to put it in a place that where I will remember it will be. 960 header. I'll put it on my desktop. Okay. Save. Those things. So I can get rid of that because I saved it. Don't save. Now for the background, we just grab one of these. You'll notice that this will be able to tile down. This will be the background for your container div. File, save for the web. Okay, save. We'll call this 960 BG. And we can get rid of this. Don't save. Then we can grab the footer the same way. Command C, Command N, return, Command V, file, save for web devices, save, 960 footer. There are no spaces, there are no capital letters. We're going to stay consistent throughout the entire project. Alright, so we don't want to save that. Well, now that we have our 960 wide graphic set, we can change this to 777 pixels wide for that interface. Go to image size, 777 pixels, shrinks it down, make sure you have your constrained proportions on. But look, now our grids don't match up, and so we go back to Moose Loose. We go to 12 column sizes, put in our 777. Submit query. Now we see that the guides at 777 pixels have to be 65 pixels apart. And so we can go back to Photoshop, double click the ruler, go down to guides, grids, change this to 65. And all of a sudden our guides match up. So now with the guide set up, we can create our 777 graphics. Copy, new, enter, paste, file, save for web, always save for web and devices, save, 777 header, always be consistent in your file naming. It'll save you a lot of confusion and rewriting a code. And now the background. Copy, paste, file, save for web, save, 777 BG, get rid of that, don't need that anymore, and then our footer, copy, new, paste, file, save for web devices, save, 777 footer. Alright, so now we have three graphics, 960 header, 960 BG, 960 footer, 777 header, 777 BG, and 777 footer. Let's go to the image size, change that to 480, which is good for iPads and things like that. But our guides are all goofed up again, so let's go back to the zoo. Go to 12 column size, 480. So the query, we see now that the guides are going to be 40. And so we'll go back to Photoshop, change the guides and grids to 40. Okay. Now we just cut those pieces apart again. Command C, Command N, return, Command V. File, save for web and devices. Save. 480 header. 480 header, save. Let's close that. Save. Do a BG. Copy new. File, save for web and devices. Save. 480 BG. Get rid of that. Don't need it. We'll get the footer. Copy new. Paste it. File. Save for web and devices. Save. 480 footer. Just like that. And save. Now if I go to my desktop where everything is, well, let's just save. Let's just minimize this. Minimize everything. And I am going to create a new folder that I'm going to use for my WordPress theme. I'm going to call this Froggy Fright. And then I'm going to grab all my graphics that I just created, my 480 header, 480, and put all these now inside my Froggy Fright. I should have 9 graphics in there. Let me make sure. 480, yes. So you can see I have my 960 header, my 960 footer, my 960 BG, my 777 header, 77 footer, 77 BG, and the 480s. All the subsequent files that we're going to create and put in this directory, our new directory, the one I called Froggy Fright.